I'm your host, Joel Perez, and you're watching Wrestling with Politics. And today we're going to be discussing the Democratic meltdown that has taken place at Robert F. Kennedy's confirmation hearing. The Democratic Party, for the millionth time here, has revealed that they don't give a damn about making America healthy again. They don't care about trying to work with Bobby Kennedy on his agenda, which he stated was to take the poisons out of the American diet, something that everybody should agree with. All they care about is defending the interests of corporations and pharmaceutical lobbyists. And in this clip we're about to watch, Elizabeth Warren, Democratic Senator from Massachusetts, reveals exactly that.
Down the line.
I'll comply with all the ethical guidelines.
That's not the question. You have said
you're asking me, Senator, you're asking me not to sue pharmaceutical companies. Yeah, you are. That's exactly what you're doing.
Look, no one should be fooled here. As Secretary of HHS, Robert Kennedy will have the power to undercut vaccines and vaccine manufacturing across our country. And for all of his talk about follow the science and his promise that he won't interfere with those of us who want to vaccinate his kids, the bottom line is the same. Kennedy can kill off access to vaccines and make millions of dollars while he does it. Kids might die, but Robert Kennedy can keep cashing in.
Senator, I support vaccines.
And so in that clip that you just saw there, that back and forth between Robert Kennedy and Elizabeth Warren, she reveals exactly what my problem is with mandatory vaccination. Because she tells Robert Kennedy straight to his face that she should be able to vaccinate his kids, his children. And so who the hell does Elizabeth Warren think she is to be able to tell anybody what they should be able to do with their child? And if this were any other situation and a stranger was to come up to you and tell you that you should stick something in your kid's arm or you're a shitty parent, it would be completely unacceptable. I know if I had a child and somebody was to come up to me and tell me anything over what I should be doing with my own child, I would tell them to F off. I would be pissed. And so the government, I think it should be common sense. The government shouldn't be able to tell anybody what they should be able to do with their own children. That should be the parent's decision. But in this world, it's not the parent's decision. It's up to government maniacs like Elizabeth Warren. And so what that means is that if your kid doesn't get that vaccine, your kid doesn't go to school. And so the government, they've made it very clear, they've made a big decision here, and that's that they've deemed it more important that your kid gets shot up in the arm with whatever's in their 71 childhood vaccinations. That's more important than if your kid gets an education. And that's exactly why Elizabeth Warren got called out in this clip by Robert Kennedy for arguing on behalf of big pharmaceutical corporations, because that's exactly what she's doing here. And she tries to make it seem like it's Robert Kennedy who's somehow profiting off of being anti-vaccine, but that begs the question, exactly how do you profit from being anti-vaccine, especially when you're Robert Kennedy, who by taking this position is literally putting his position as leader of HHS at a huge jeopardy here. He's literally made himself public enemy number one against the largest big food companies and the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the entire United States. And in reality, if Robert Kennedy was to sell out to the big pharmaceutical corporations like Elizabeth Warren has, he would get confirmed in an instant. But he hasn't, and that's why Elizabeth Warren decided to come out of her cave here. And I just want to clarify here, RFK's position isn't even anti-vaccine, because if you actually listen to RFK Jr., what he says, what he calls for is further testing and further analysis of these vaccines to actually ensure that they're safe and effective like the government says they are. This is something any other member of Congress should be for. It's very simple, but of course they're not for it And that's because they've been paid not to be for it by large pharmaceutical companies who actually do profit and actually do make billions off of these drugs. They then use that money to lobby politicians like Elizabeth Warren to look the other way and not question what millions of Americans are putting into their bodies. And here's the proof. According to Open Secrets from 2019 to 2020, the Elizabeth Warren campaign received $821,941 in political donations from, you guessed it, the pharmaceutical industry. And so it makes complete sense why Elizabeth Warren is so mad at RFK Jr. over these vaccines. She's just doing her job. And it's not to represent the American people. It's not to represent her voters. It's to represent her corporate donors. And if you need even more proof that Elizabeth Warren is a snake in the grass for the pharmaceutical industry, then you best watch this next clip.
He intends to continue to make money off his anti-vax position. Look, he says he won't go to work for drug companies because the American people have a right to know that the decisions made while he is Secretary of HHS are only for the good of the American people. And yet, he wants to keep a piece of the action on every one of these anti-vax lawsuits. And what that means potentially is, as Secretary of HHS, he can make those lawsuits a whole lot more profitable. In fact, he may have the opportunity to bankrupt the vaccine manufacturers, and then nobody gets vaccine.
Are you worried that he's in the position to serve his own interests?
That is the problem. He has said he will protect his right to make money off the position of Secretary of HHS. That means that every decision he makes could be for the American people or could be just to benefit RFK Jr.
Do you think any of the points you're making are resonating with your Republican colleagues? Can I get your name?
And in this clip, you see Elizabeth Warren whining and complaining as if it is a bad thing that RFK Jr. could possibly take down these big pharmaceutical and vaccine companies. So in this clip, she literally wants you to feel bad for the corporations, for the very same companies that have been making millions, if not billions, off of sick Americans' health. She wants you to feel bad for the 9 billionaires who were created from producing the mandatory COVID-19 vaccine. A vaccine which, it's very clear now, wasn't the cure to COVID-19, and a vaccine which, it's very clear, it wasn't created for the better health of Americans. The COVID-19 vaccine was created to create those 9 billionaires and to enrich the top 1%. So quite frankly, I don't give a damn if these vaccine manufacturers and these big pharmaceutical companies go out of business, because they've been the ones ripping everybody off to begin with. And that's what Elizabeth Warren, that's what she's so afraid of here, because she knows that the moment that these companies are put under the microscope, these companies, they don't stand a chance. And that's why they tried to block us from seeing what was in the COVID-19 vaccine for 75 years. Elizabeth Warren is literally arguing here that the vaccine companies shouldn't be allowed to get sued if their vaccine kills somebody. And unfortunately, that's currently the law, which is completely insane. But even more insane than that is the fact that Elizabeth Warren in this clip, she sounds like she's the lawyer for the pharmaceutical company. And that's completely backwards. It's the complete oxymoron of how this is all supposed to work. Elizabeth Warren, she's been elected and she's supposed to represent and she's supposed to be the lawyer of the American people. But instead, every time she shows up to work, she's arguing for the interest of large transnational corporations. And she's pissed if they don't get what they want. What a complete garbage of a human being. And so Elizabeth Warren, she's completely corrupt and she's completely immoral but yet she thinks she can tell you my body and my choice while telling you what to do with your body and your child? Give me a break. Elizabeth Warren should be nowhere near the halls of power. And this is exactly why Robert Kennedy's position is in jeopardy, because in order to get into that position as head of HHS, Robert Kennedy needs to be confirmed by the 100 most depraved, most corrupt, most cowardly, good-for-nothing, piece of shit politicians in this entire country. And so it's up to us to make sure that we voice our support for RFK Jr. and that we blast on all these politicians who decide to vote against him. Because if RFK Jr. gets in for the first time in generations, we'll have a leader of HHS who's not bought off by big food and big pharmaceutical lobbyists. And that's exactly why all these Democrats are melting down over RFK's confirmation, because they know that for the first time in generations, like I said, we would have a leader of HHS who would actually serve the American people, and a leader who wouldn't serve corporations. And politicians like Elizabeth Warren, they just can't have that. And my final message to anybody watching this video, if you ever get the chance to vote for Elizabeth Warren, make sure you take out the garbage, you vote that snake out, because she's just another disgusting traitor to the American people. And that's what I think. You can let me know what you think in the comment section down below. For now, if you want to support Wrestling with Politics, you can make sure to like on this video, you can share this content, and you can hit that subscribe button. If you want to see more from Wrestling with Politics, you can check out this video talking about the LA Mayor, Karen Bass, and her incompetence over the LA wildfires. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching this video.
Hey Zoo, you got the